What's up, guys? We're going to be talking about tipping culture in America. Let's go.
So Americans are starting to tip less. A recent Wall Street Journal survey found that Americans were starting to push back on tip prompts for basic transactions and service charges, and overall were just very frustrated with tipping culture, which has always been around in America, at least in the recent history, but has really exploded in the past couple of years, kind of with the rise of those tip screens, etc. And tipping has been around in American culture for quite a while, but in the past couple of years, it has definitely exploded with the proliferation of the tipping screens, just kind of coming out of COVID. And the survey revealed that in response, Americans are starting to have higher standards, to warrant tipping, using cash to avoid the tip screens, or simply tipping less or not at all.
Yeah, so if you haven't been hearing about that throughout social media, people are tired of tipping. And the employees that work for these companies that require tips, or not require, but require tips, um, they're saying if you can't afford the tip, then don't come. No, ask your employer to pay you more. You know what you signed up for when you signed up for this job. It's low $2 an hour um, plus tips. You know your finances is heavily dependent on other people's generosity. So you know what you're getting into. So I just think that's, a bad take to just say if you can't afford the tip, then don't come out. No, find a better job. For the people saying that, I tip, my wife tip, we always tip, but the service has to be at least decent.
And this isn't just about saving money, though I think that is a factor during times of economic uncertainty. I think there is also kind of this psychology piece at play where I think a lot of consumers believe that the traditional boundaries of what deserves a tip has been overextended to transactions that previously didn't include tipping. And a really good example of this is those self-service kiosks where you kind of go and scan the items and then ask for tip. And understandably, that feels pretty frustrating and annoying that you have to deal with that. And tipping has normally been guided by widely understood, if not unwritten, rules. And as these norms have become violated on the tipping end of things, tipping has kind of been inserted in places where it wasn't inserted before. People are understandably getting frustrated by that, one.
Yeah, like just going back to that, tipping on a self checkout kiosk. Who am I tipping? The company. The companies. If you ask some of these employees, how much of the tip they see while using the screens, a lot of them will probably say none. They don't see that. I think a recent study just came out. I'll find it and I'll post it in the description. But a recent study, I believe, just came out that showed that the companies are receiving, uh, was it 40% of the tip, um, whenever how they do it. But I'll leave the link in the description. Obviously, don't quote me on that because I didn't say much. But the employees aren't receiving the tips. Basically, is what I'm getting to. Like if you go to a bar or something like that and you're paying cash, and the bartenders and the bus people, they'll split that up how they do that amongst themselves with the cash. But when you use the kiosk and tip with your card, I believe the company is getting most of that.
And two, they're also just getting exhausted by having to navigate all these different social expectations that are just rapidly changing around tipping. So that's leading to people to tip less or not at all. And I was saying before, economic pressure definitely plays a role here, but I think it's a little bit more nuanced than just cutting costs. So, yes, I think there might be some consumers that are foregoing the tip just to save a couple bucks here and there, but I think we're also seeing a fundamental shift in consumption patterns. So, people are eating out less, cooking home at more, etc. It's also really important to point out that tipping has partly been about social signaling and power relationships. And as the power balance shifts between service providers and consumers through technology and changing economic conditions, tipping behaviors will adjust accordingly.
So what's crazy about this is I was watching another video before this, and they were talking about how it started right after slavery and the Civil War. Black people could only get jobs as workers, and that's the excuse. But I started doing some research, and it started in Europe. Um, and the tipping culture started way back in Europe. and some wealthier Americans went to Europe during vacation and stuff, and they came back and brought that culture with them because they thought it was fancy. So that's how tipping started, according to AI. But let's take a look at some of these comments. I've just encountered a tip screen for online retail purchase. Now, come on, online retail, and they want a tip. 6,200 likes on that one. What else we got here? I go by the up rule. If I have to walk up to order, pick up my own food, or drive up, I'm not tipping. I'll tip for a sit-down restaurant or my hair appointments. I tip my barber. It's a service. He takes his time. He's good at his craft. Probably can't tell right now. Been a minute, but I tip my barber. So, there are times where I tip, all the time, sometimes not. But tip people in the service who is good at things. You know what I'm saying? We got another one here. If 20% is just expected, then it's a service charge and not a tip. And that's true. So a tip is something that is added on top as a gratitude, but not anymore. It's just a service charge. And we got some more comments here. I got asked to tip at a self-serve froyo spot. You do the work, just like the online retail. You do the work and they expect a tip. Come on. And why does tipping start at $18 now? I mean, the standard, was it 15, then up to 20? I think if you, some kiosks start at 20, 25, 30. Those are the only options. You can enter manually a 0, but it starts at 20. That's crazy. I was asked to tip a merch stand at a concert. They just grabbed me a t-shirt. and that's kind of what I was getting at earlier when I said the service has to be on point. You don't just tip every time. What am I tipping you for? Grab shirt, hands it to me. No tip, no tip. Let's look at some more comments. Yeah, I'm not tipping in the drive-thru. I've seen those. I don't mind tipping my server, but being asked to tip on literally everything is so shady. Yeah, and the tipping kind of loses its It's not importance, but its meaning, the gratitude. Like, that was the whole point of tipping. I'm not tipping the cashier. When you think about it, they're literally just doing their job of moving money. Yeah, I don't see why you would tip a cashier. We have tipping fatigue and we're broke. We are broke. Tipping, like I said, on some of these kiosks, start at 20% on top of already paid for the inflated price of the food. But hey, leave your thoughts in the comment. Let me know how you think about, let me know what you think about the tip culture in America right now, and catch you in the next one.